Right. So are we good to start then, Michelle, if we don't have any public coming, or do we need to?
Well, it's 6 o'clock, so yes, you are.
Okay, great. So it's the regular council meeting of Monday, June 14th at 6 p.m. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. The first items, adoption of the minutes 1.1 and 1.2. Is Governance and Operations Committee meeting of May 25th, 2021, and the regular council meeting of May 25th, 2021. The recommendation before you is that the minutes of the Governance and Operations Committee meeting and the regular council meeting, both held May 25th, 2021, be adopted as circulated. Do I have someone to make that motion?
So moved, Robert.
Shoney, do I have someone to second? Councillor Gattafoni Robinson. Is there any errors or omissions that are seen in the minutes?
Nope.
Seeing none, hearing none. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. Thank you. Ms. McIsaac, do we have anyone that has emailed anything for public question period?
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item number 3, which is bylaws. It's bylaw 3.1, zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2906. 2021, first and second readings, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Ms. McIsaac. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have an application for rezoning of the property at 2430 McBride Street from Menelaus Holdings Limited. They're also applying for a development variance permit to seek a minor amendment to one of the limitations contained in the city zoning bylaw as it relates to secondary suites. The property at 2430 McBride Street is undeveloped presently. It's currently zoned single-family residential R1, which would allow it to be developed for single-family use. Menelaus Holdings is proposing to construct a 2-bedroom dwelling with a 2-bedroom secondary suite on the lower level. And they've attached their building plans and it's been made available to council as part of the reporting. Back in 2020, council did enact some regulations pertaining to secondary suites and have included in section 317A of the zoning bylaw stipulations that secondary suites are permitted in the single family residential R1 and single and 2-family residential R2 zones. However, it does require that the property be rezoned to R1S or R2S zone as applicable. When considering the development of this property, Menelaus Holdings is proposing a secondary suite on the lower level. The reason that a development variance permit would also be required is that the lower level secondary suite exceeds the total floor area of what is presently permitted in the city zoning bylaw by about 100 square feet. So the property owner, in accordance with the city zoning bylaw, would be able to have a secondary suite of 11,058. Whereas they're hoping to build the secondary suite with a square footage of 1,330 square feet. So it's about 46% of the total floor area as opposed to 40% as is permitted in the zoning bylaw. When council enacted the changes in 2020 with respect to the secondary suites, at the time, there were no provincial requirements for that space limitation. Previously, the BC Building Code had imposed some limitations to the floor areas of the secondary suites and did limit it to 90 square meters and to a maximum of 40% of the total floor area of the building. But those limitations on the provincial level had been removed in about December of 2019 in order to encourage the development of secondary suites. And it's now left to the discretion of the local government. So that is a limitation that council did put in play. And so if council is agreeable to the rezoning, what would be recommended is that we would issue a development variance permit to vary that maximum allowable floor area for the secondary suite concurrently with the bylaws adoption. looking at whether this property is suited to be developed for the single-family residential with the suite. It does have a large lot area. It's suitably sized, surrounded by properties that are zoned for single-family residential use. And they could certainly satisfy the off-street parking requirements of 1 parking space per dwelling unit on the lot, should council agree with the rezoning. The residential development would align with the residential nature of that neighborhood and with the adjacent properties, and in my opinion, should not negatively impact the neighboring properties. However, as council is aware, with any rezoning after first and second readings, we are required to hold a public hearing and garner input from any persons who feel their property interest might be affected by the application. And as such, we would, if first and second readings of the bylaw are given tonight, make necessary arrangements for a public hearing to be held on Monday, June 28th. Just one consideration that council may want to keep top of mind, we did participate with the regional district in the development of a regional housing needs assessment, which was presented to council and adopted and endorsed, where a range of housing needs and types were identified for not only Trail, but the whole region. And so if this rezoning is approved, it would be one small step in creating some rental housing, for much needed rental housing. And with that, it is being recommended that council proceed with zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 2906, receiving its first and second readings at tonight's meeting.
Okay, the recommendation is before you. Is there any questions on this application? Councillor Dobie, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, I would like to direct this question to Michelle, and the only reason I'm asking it, Michelle, is I'm not quite sure I'm understanding this one correctly. So this means the Manalaws will live in the top level and rent the bottom?
Manalaws Holdings is a construction company, so they may just be developing the property for future sale. It's not, I wouldn't be aware if they're intending to live there.
Okay, so then does this mean they can rent out both floors?
They could,
Okay,
yes.
so what's the difference between a house where they're renting 2 floors and a small apartment block? Does an apartment block have to say it's got more than 2 suites?
The way sorry, go ahead.
Or could it just be 2 suites?
I would have to, I'll check the definitions in our zoning bylaw.
Okay, because I'm just wondering if we're falling into a crack here.
No, I would suggest the residential nature of the neighborhood would support an R1S zone. So with the principal dwelling and a secondary suite, whether they be owner, lived in, and a rental, or perhaps they'd have family members living in the secondary suite. I think that suits the residential nature of that neighborhood. Apartments, let's see if we do define them just while we're.
Councillor Dobie, while Ms. McIsaac's looking at it, this is the same kind of zoning that we did for the property in Glen Mary right along the river, where it was a larger home and then they segregated the basement off to have a secondary suite in it.
But that home was already built and it was the owner's request for the secondary suite, right?
Correct.
Yes, so this is a holding company, so that's where my concern comes in.
So they're a construction company, and our definition of apartments means a multiple family residential building containing 5 or more dwelling units.
Okay.
So this would be limited to 2.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Councillor Kashoni, you're on mute.
Thank you. But it does mean, Michelle, that anybody then in Muriel Heights could take their house and turn it into 2 rental properties, top and bottom floor.
Well, any rezoning is considered by council on a case-by-case basis
Right,
and based on its own merits. It would be a decision made without prejudice.
mhm,
But we are seeing more and more of a demand for secondary suites. And so, yes, whether it be in the Mural Heights neighborhood or any of our other R1 zones, Sunningdale, Glen Mary, Cadnac, I
Yeah.
think council will start to see more and more of these applications unless you were to, as part of our OCP review or our
Right.
subsequent zoning review, make a move towards allowing secondary suites in all single-family zoned areas, which is quite common in municipalities these days.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Move approval.
Okay, Counselor Kashoni, do I have someone to second that? Counselor Butler, thank you. I'll just say that, we're so short on housing stock and we're so short of rental stock as well for people that I think it's a great idea to increase density. And also if the neighborhood allows, and I'm sure someone would love to have a new suite that is a rental suite. So any other comments on this application or questions?
Nope.
Seeing none. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, if any? Great, thank you. Okay, council committee reports. Councillor Butler, you're first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually have nothing to report this evening.
All right, thank you for that. Councillor Doby, you're next.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Payson. On June the 7th, I believe it was, sorry. Councillor Jones and myself visited the safe injection site that is run by Anchors and Redone over in Nelson. We spent a good hour or longer with the group. The site has been operational for approximately 4 years now, and I think we were both very, very impressed with everything that goes on there. They have somewhat of a drop-in for anybody that feels they want to come in just for a cup of coffee or a juice or just somebody to talk to. They also allow them access to a laptop and they can come in and charge their cell phones, as well as there's the availability of certain drugs and quite a stock of vitamins and minerals that are available to them, all free. There's health kits, there's some counseling available there. And the coordination between Anchors and Redone has just worked very, very well. There's pretty well a full-time Redone person on the site. I did meet her, I believe her name is Amber, and I did meet her when I attended a meeting with the Redone group a few weeks ago, and she is pretty well there on site. So overall, we were very, very impressed with the site. I asked them approximately how many people are homeless and that they might be servicing in the Nelson area. And I was really surprised at the number. She said between 100 and 110. So that's quite a few more than what I think we have in Trail. The other thing that they indicated is they're now working on the development of another site, and it might not be quite what they have now in terms of all the offerings, because even they admitted that when they started this 4 years ago, they started off very, very slowly. It's been a growth project over the full 4 years. So they're hoping to get a second site closer to the downtown area, because they're right on the fringe of the downtown, right where you come in to the four-way stop, the four lights there. They're just up the street from that, or almost right on the corner. So they're kind of out of the fringe of the downtown area, but it seems to work very, very well for them. So yes, we were very impressed. The other thing that I just wanted to report is we have market again this Saturday, and this is going to be centered around Father's Day. So I urge everybody to come out today and see what's happening with Father's Day at the market. That concludes my report, Mayor Payson.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Doby? Seeing none, Councillor Kashoni, go ahead.
Thank you. The regional district has been advised that they will not be getting money back for the carbon tax paid in 2021. This adds $44,000 to the budget for 2022. And if the carbon tax continues to increase to the $170 per ton rate, this will then account for over $187,000 per year in deficit to the regional district. The City of Trail's share will be 22.1% of the total cost if it goes to the $170 a ton, or $41,227 per year. I don't know if we've got the same sort of notification, but I think we can probably expect it. The McKelvey Creek project is moving ahead now with $130,000 allocated for planning, final planning of the construction of the organic diversion project. This will provide a master plan for the reorganization of the landfill to accommodate organic waste and further to improve the recycling area and adding a second scale. The Grand Forks project is moving along, and when COVID-19 protocol allows, we will be touring the project. We are still awaiting notification of the grant for the McKelvey Creek upgrade and also for the recycling organic containers. And I did report last time, just to reiterate, the contract was awarded to Mar West Industries for the Grand Forks plant at $3,071,558. I was also nominated and accepted the position of vice chair of the solid waste committee monitoring this particular project. At the transit committee, we were advised that we could increase the bus rates at 2.39% per year, but not until 2024. This would have a rate increase of 9.2% over the 4 years. But the committee asked for the last scheduled increase to determine the final increase we could actually apply. All the money collected for the bus ridership goes back to the regional district, so it is important to keep these rates consistent with at least the cost of living. My suggestion was to review it and provide an increase of the 9.2% plus any missed cost of living increases in the past. So if we had 3 other years at 2% for a year, and those ones there, we would then take the 9.2 and add the 6%, because that's the fare box goes back to us and helps us. It helps us keep the projects going. For example, the bus shelter program, the estimate has moved up now from about 200,000 to 354,000. And that's the one that's being paid for out of the dam revenues, but it's increased. That, for example, the cost increases we noticed in the we noted in the building of the roofing. It's coming through on the bus shelters already. So the transit 3-year agreement has been signed, and there will not be any increases or expansion of services in the next 3 years. This means that generally we'll have a flat budget for this period of time. Now, BC Transit at the last meeting, which has surprised me, has advised that their preference for the exchange and trail has now moved to El Dorado and Cedar. So from where it was before, this was out of the blue to me. Nobody had mentioned it at all. So they want to go to El Dorado and Cedar. This will be explored later, and I guess they're going to be coming to council to explain the reasons why. Further, they seem to agree that an employee washroom is likely. I asked the question about a public washroom, and they are going to be exploring that with the grant procedure. Right now, they were not sure whether or not a public washroom could be rolled into the total cost of the exchange downtown. So it's quite possible. I think the letter we got there maybe possibly misspoke and said it was totally out of the possibility of us having a double washroom with a employee washroom on one side and a public on the back. So that was quite unusual too. The chair of the Transit Committee and the chair of the East End Committees has expressed support for both types of washrooms to be included in the final plan. And that's a good step there. With the cost calculated based on the 80% sharing by Transit Authority and 20% of the regional district. So, and we have already put in a substantial amount of money that account will then be holding by January 1st next year, will be holding $340,000. There was a 44% drop in ridership in 2020, and we were compensated for that drop with over $300,000 transferred from BC Transit to cover our costs. However, ridership is still very low compared to 2019, and we will be asking if a similar grant procedure is available for 2021, because we are still in a very poor situation considering the ridership. So I don't think it should be just a 1-year thing, because the ridership still down well over 30%. And of course, we, the City of Trail and the regional district, have to pick up the costs. Now, the policy committee recommended a policy that would have allowed the dam revenues to be shared across the entire regional district without agreement from the East End 7 group. This was the policy I was mentioning I was concerned about. The policy came forward at the May 27, 2021 meeting of the board. And this was the one policy that I was extremely concerned about. So at the board meeting, Ellie Grieve moved and I seconded the motion to not accept the policy, but rather refer back to provincial legislation, which allows for the money from the dams to be spent only in areas where Area A is a participant. And this sort of solidifies the position that the dam money really belongs in the East End. It therefore provides control by the East End 7 on the revenues from the dam. In 2022 alone, $850,000 is going to be transferred to cover services in the East End. This vote ended up being a 7-6 vote, with all members in the boundary voting against it. It was predictable, of course. For the budget 2022, we need to look at the 5 years plans. These plans were constructed based upon a cost allocation policy that was turned down by board members in 2021. However, the issue needs to be dealt with prior to the budget calculations for 2022. This cost allocation policy is the one that added hundreds of thousands of dollars to the individual services and was therefore abandoned for the 2021 budget. This will have to be dealt with partially this summer and of course in September prior to the construction of the new budgets. The Transit Committee now also supported the introduction of one electric bus for the City of Nelson as a pilot project. We supported it from our regional district because the roadways in Nelson are similar to the ones in Rosslyn and West Trail. So when I was in Nelson the last time for my eye operation, we drove up around in there. We noticed it's almost identical to the West Trail. And this bus they're proposing can handle that type of steep inclines. If the bus is successful, we would then be looking to ask for a pilot in our city to put electric buses along with the 2 or 3 electric vehicles we have now. And the plan for transit is to transition over to electric vehicles within the next 10 years completely. Thank you. That's it.
Any questions for Councillor Kashoni? None. Councillor Gadafoni Robinson?
Yes, I only have one. I attended, probably with other council members, the Jesse Adrian Thistle talk on homelessness. And I found him an extraordinary person. He went from homelessness to an award-winning author and scholar and got his education and is a remarkable young man. And I just thought it put a different light on homelessness. And he also like I say, he's got his education. And I was just, like I said, surprised at what he said. One thing that really caught my attention was that he said that his lowest point on being homeless, he said that if he got arrested by the RCMP about that he wanted to go to jail because he would have a clean bed, a roof over his head, clean clothes, and 3 meals a day. So I found him very, very interesting. And those are my reports, Your Worship.
Great. Any questions for Councillor Gadafoni Robinson? None? Okay. Thank you for bringing up the Jesse Thistle. That was first on my list, and I appreciate you covering that off in such an eloquent way. I'm just going to backtrack a little bit because Councillor Santori is missing from this meeting, so I will provide the Governance and Operations Committee report that happened earlier. There's quite a bit to cover here, so just bear with me. So we had 2 delegations. One was the Rural and Northern Immigration Project, which facilitates and focuses on employee attraction and retention. So that was an update on that program, which is going well for the whole Kootenay boundary. The second was our Public Works Department report provided by the Director of Public Works. And so we got a nice operational report from his department. Then under the Parks and Recreation section, there was approval of the recreation fees bylaw. We look at this every single year. It was increased 2% to align with CPI and also parallels the collective agreement wage increase of 2% annually. The roof rehabilitation program. So we had put in, tendered 2 roof projects, one for the Trail Memorial Center and one for the Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center. And they came in significantly over budget, probably almost double what we were expecting. So we have had to move this now back to just 1 roof project. So the tender for the Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center roofing project was awarded to BF Roofing in the amount of $594,873.60, inclusive of GST. The Trail Memorial Center roof project is going to have to be deferred to next fiscal year. So staff will be putting forward a comprehensive project plan to advance that, most likely in the fall. Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center domestic hot water heater, a contract was awarded to Valhalla Refrigeration in the amount of $37,119 for a new hot water heater for the Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center. A couple pickup trucks were awarded as well. Both were awarded to AM Ford. One was the pickup truck Unit 913 replacement, and then the other was Unit 901 replacement. One was for $61,813, and the second was $49,067. We awarded the water treatment plant valve and actuator upgrades to Summit Valve and Controls in the amount of $68,538. And the Sunningdale Y pedestrian island project has just had to be deferred a little bit because our bid submission, we had no bids on it when we tendered that out. So hopefully we'll get that done in the fall to enhance the crosswalk in Sunningdale. We looked for two grant applications that came forward. The Kidney Foundation of Canada was provided $125 for the cash request, and the Trail and District Daycare Society was not awarded the property tax exemption. So that is our Governance and Operations Committee meeting. With respect to my council meeting work, again, Jessie Thistle was something that all of council went to see, and thank you for your participation as we learn about our vulnerable in our community. And this was the first step for us, or one of the steps in creating anti-stigma awareness and campaign and language around our vulnerable population. I've attended multiple Trail Health and Environment Program preparatory meetings in advance of Thursday's meeting. And this one of them included planning to increase community engagement and attendance at meetings. The Trail Health and Environment Program grounds itself on community engagement. So anyone that is interested in attending meetings or engaging in any way with the program, please contact us at www.thep.ca. And there was also the Metal Tech Alley's Industrial Circular Economy Conference that happened this past week in the city of Trail, and I was honored to provide a virtual welcome for that conference. So those are my committee reports. Does anyone have any questions for me on any of those? Seeing none, all right, we'll move on. There's the consent agenda, and there's 6 items on the consent agenda. Report on invoices paid, Tech Metals letter, Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sports, City of Langley letter, Kathy Peters sexual exploitation awareness letter, and a letter of appreciation from Camp Coolery. So 6 items. The recommendation is that the items be received for information. If anyone wants anything pulled out, please let me know and we can discuss. No, so nothing being pulled out. Okay, so the recommendation then is that the items on the consent agenda be received for information. Does someone wish to make that recommendation?
Move. Second.
Okay, Councillor Gattafoni Robinson moved and Councillor Kashoni second. All in favor of receipt?
Aye.
If any? Thank you very much. Is there any new business from the floor? No new business for tonight? There's two department reports under number 7.1 is the RDKB Building Department Report for April 2021, and 7.2 is the Bylaw Enforcement Department Report for May 2021. These reports, the recommendation is that the reports be received for information. Do I have someone to make that recommendation? Councillor Dobie and Councillor Butler. Is there any questions with these two reports that are put forward to you?
No,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
If any? Carried. Thank you. And that is the last item. Seems that we took care of most of our business under the Governance and Operations Committee. So if I can have someone move for adjournment, we are done. Councillor Dobie, thank you. That's,
Good night, everybody.
have a nice evening,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a nice evening.
Goodbye.
See you Thursday.